I am a firm believer that you should be keeping your eyes on your own prize and not concerning yourself with what everybody else around you is doing. But I am in a community of really cool people constantly recommending books that also all sound really good. And I am not immune to being influenced, okay? So far this season, I have given you my autumnal TBR, all the books that I hope to read. I have given you some witchy occult recommendations, and now we are going to be talking about my wish list of spooky season books that I don't own, but I'm seeing everybody else around me enjoying, so I kind of want to get my hands on them. I usually make a video like this around Christmas time because I'm not on like an official book buying ban, but I am buying consciously these days because like shelve it or scrap it exists, and if I keep hauling books then the stacks are never going to disappear, which honestly at this point it's going to take a while to get them down, but what I don't want is for them to continuously keep growing. So every time I go to pick up a book I think about whether I really need it. If it's a sequel and I've already read the first book, that's fine. If it's by an author that I really like and I've run out of all of their books, that's fine. But what I can't really be doing is going around picking up books just because I want to read them and because they sound good, because just because I want to read them does not mean that I'm actually going to be reading them right now, because all of the books that I have around me were all books that I very much wanted to read at one time but didn't quite get around to, and that's how we ended up in the situation we are in today. I've actually done a little bit of a mini series. I've only posted 2 of them, but I've made a couple of reels, which is essentially like books that I would have bought today if I was allowed to buy books, which I'm not because I have so many at home, where I go through a bookstore and I'm just like, I've heard good things about this is really appealing to me because of this, everyone's talking about this, and this is essentially the same thing but in long form, specifically focusing on spooky season themed reads. Now there is actually a reason why I get so excited about the books that everybody's talking about at this time of year, and that is because I'm not typically a horror or thriller reader, and they are 2 key genres associated with this season. I am not versed enough in either of them to know specifically what it is that I enjoy, and I'm still kind of like exploring all of the different niches of these genres. So when somebody recommends a book and it sounds really good, I'm like, okay, I need to try that. So this is also going to serve, especially for a couple of authors that I'm looking to dip my toes into, as an opportunity for you to tell me what books by this author I should be picking up to give myself the best chance of actually enjoying their work. Now, because I tend to read so little thriller and horror books, I also tend to get excited about them a little bit more, so the majority of this video is going to be comprised of those genres, but we do have like a smidge of gothic, a little cozy romance in here as well. I'm not going to be going through these in any particular order either. I literally just sat and like wrote a list of all of the books that I'm really excited to talk about that I can't pick up right now, but I want to like expel my enthusiasm about them in some way. The first one that we're going to be talking about is actually a little bit of a cozy romance, and that is Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. So I'm pretty sure that G recently read this from Book Roast, and I honestly don't know if my taste aligns with G's, but I do sometimes like a little bit of a cozy witchy read. I did really like the XX. I read it at the perfect time for the season, and I feel like Rewitched could also potentially provide those vibes. All I know about this is that it is about a witch who lives in the mortal world. She works at a bookstore, and I think approaching like her 30th birthday, she has to complete some sort of series of trials to do something with her magic, and I think if she fails she will lose her magic. But she's also juggling the fact that nobody knows she's a witch, the fact that she has a job, and all of this mundane stuff alongside. I think there's a romance in here. I actually don't know for sure. That's just the vibes I got because it's more of a cozy book, but it looks really cute and something. Like, I don't read cozy or cute or like low stakes books very often, but sometimes when they're seasonally appropriate, not Christmas though, don't like Christmas books, but when they're seasonally appropriate in a not Christmas way, like, you know, like a beach read, like a holiday romance. This is the autumnal version of that, and sometimes I can read like one during the season and then that's my fill. This author as well keeps coming to the Leeds Waterstones and doing events, so if I had her books or was actually genuinely intending on picking them up, then I could also attend those. Next up, we have a couple by my favorite horror author, and take that with a pinch of salt, guys, because there's only one horror author that I've read more than one book by, and that is Sir Grady Hendrix. I have actually just read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I've also read My Best Friend's Exorcism and Horror Store, and I really enjoyed all of them. Now, the reason why I can't have any more Grady Hendrix books is because I still have one unread on my shelves, which is How to Sell a Haunted House, and when I've read that, I'm going to be in the market for more. And there are 2 Grady Hendrix books that I have been desperate to get my grubby hands on for quite some time now. I do have like a low-key rule in place where if I have a book by an author who like writes standalones and I haven't read it, then I can't go out and purchase another book by that author. Now, sometimes I'll get a book by an author I haven't read from in like subscription boxes, and that's kind of not my fault, or somebody will be unhauling a book and I'm like, I will take that off your hands. But generally I try not to do that. But the 2 books by Grady Hendrix that I really want to read, one is very highly rated. I feel like a lot of people really like it, and one people like a little bit less. So the one that everybody seems to love right now is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, and this one I think was a January 2025 release. I'm pretty sure it was either early this year or early last year, and it is set in a home for unmarried women. So I don't know what year this is set. Grady Hendrix tends to write books that are set in like the 80s or 90s, but essentially obviously girls are sent to this home to give birth to babies that they've had out of wedlock, and the librarian at this place gives one of the girls a book of occult and they start to run amok. Sounds amazing. Sign me up. And then the other one that I haven't heard as many good things about is the Final Girls support group. This one is following a support group for final girls. So if you don't know what a final girl is, they are the people who survive horror movies. They obviously come here to talk through their trauma because they can't relate to anybody else, and I think one by one they start to go missing. So the final girls are kind of like put through the terror of being final girls yet again. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I haven't identified yet what it is I do and do not like in the horror genre, but one thing that I know that I love is slashers and anything that kind of feels like a slasher movie, which is why I particularly like the topic of final girls, and you'll also see that I think recurring through this video a little bit as well. But I tend to like the more like slasher murder kind of horrors as opposed to, I don't know, like folkloric. I don't like mushrooms, I know that for sure. So that is kind of like the vibe that I like to lean into. Things that are more adjacent to thrillers, I guess. This is one that I've recently added to my low-key kind of wishlist slash TBR based on a video I saw from Riley Marie. Now, do I know if my taste aligns with Riley Marie? If I were to hazard a guess, I would actually say no, because I think that she likes books that are a little bit weirder than is to my particular taste, like things that are a little bit more ambiguous and like ethereal, whereas I like things that are like concrete and solid and rooted in reality. But I recently watched a video where she read a book by Nat Cassidy and also said that the book that she'd read from Nat Cassidy the year before was like one of her favorite books of that year. So I checked my library catalogue and they indeed have When the Wolf Comes Home. This I think is going to be a little bit weird, but it has a very short synopsis that doesn't give you very much. There is a woman who comes home from work and she finds a 5-year-old boy in the bushes of her home who is running away from his abusive father. So she takes this boy and kind of like runs with him because he thinks that his father is coming for him, and I think a string of brutal events is kind of happening behind them, which I'm assuming they think that the father is responsible for, but as they go on they think that maybe something else is at play. That something else is what I'm concerned about, but Riley Marie knows her horror more than I do, and if she loved it, I probably want to give it a try. Also low risk because my library has it. An author that I desperately want to try is Darcy Coates. I think it was Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy who first brought my attention to Darcy Coates. She is a prolific horror writer. I'm pretty sure she's just like churning these books out. Everybody that I hear talk about her essentially just talks about how quickly she's publishing books. Problem with that though is that she has so many books that I have absolutely no idea where to start. I have narrowed it down to a few that I'm interested in, but this is one of the authors where I want you to let me know down in the comments what you think I should pick up from her. Like I said, I like things that are more like murder houses, which I know she has at least one book that's on my list, which is Gallows Hill, and that is about a winery that belongs to a family, and the main character's parents go to take over the winery and they're murdered, and then the main character has to then go to live in the winery and kind of like, I think she's preparing it for sale, but the same things that kind of terrorize everybody else who lives there start to terrorize her. She also has a lot of haunting books, which I don't know where I stand on hauntings. Haven't read many. The only notable one I can think of is The Haunting of Hill House, but that is a very like run-on sentences, confusing kind of story that falls too far into the realm of like ambiguous for me. One that I think is one of Darcy Coates' maybe more popular books, I actually have no idea if I'm being honest, that sounds interesting to me but is also like I feel like my heart beats faster just thinking about this book, and that is From Below. This one is about a boat that went on like a regular trip, a regular voyage, and went missing, and it has now been found like hundreds and hundreds of miles away from where it was supposed to be, obviously sunk, and the book follows a dive team that has been sent to explore the wreckage to find out why the ship sunk, because it was an unsinkable ship, and also I guess exactly what and who is down there. But some creepy scary things start happening. Honestly, that feels like super claustrophobic to me. Also, the unknown depths of the sea freak me out a little bit, so I feel like this one would be good in terms of like actually being relatively scary. And then one of the Darcy Coates books that sounds the most interesting to me is How Bad Things Can Get. This one is about an influencer that rents this island, and hundreds or thousands of people go to it for this like weekend of drinking and games. One of the people who I think attends this is somebody who was formerly part of a cult, and this is like a part of her life that she doesn't want to think about, doesn't want to talk about, but it's obviously like a big part of her history that she's running away from, and that is somehow tied to the events that happen on this island, I'm assuming, when people start to go missing. That one seems like along the lines of a kind of a slasher, the mystery of like people disappearing one by one, that I do enjoy, but I know it's not one of Darcy Coates' most highly rated ones. So let me know down in the comments where you think I should start, because I'm very, very interested and I am very eager to take the recommendation of somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. Speaking of slashers, which we are going to consistently be doing in this video, a popular horror author I would also like to try is Stephen Graham Jones. All I really know about Stephen Graham Jones is that he is a big fan of horror movies, and that very much shows through within his work, and also pretty sure that his books all have like Native American representation in them. I know that some of his other books are more popular, but me being me, the one that sounds the most interesting to me is I Was a Teenage Slasher, which once again is not one of his highest rated ones. This one is of course a slasher novel. The synopsis once again doesn't really give me anything. It's set I think over a few days in a small town in Texas, and a bunch of people die that make the main characters infamous. It's called I Was a Teenage Slasher, which is why I'm drawn to it. Let me know if it's any good, and if not, let me know if anything else from Stephen Graham Jones would be for me. But I feel like the people who like Stephen Graham Jones once again are the people who like the more ambiguous type of horror, the weirder stuff, which I mean, maybe it is for me. Maybe I just need to try. Recommend me a Stephen Graham Jones book. I went to London for a friend's birthday recently, and I always have the best time in Forbidden Planet. They have like the best selection of fantasy, sci-fi and horror books that I've literally ever seen in the UK, because they have a bunch of imported stuff as well, which makes it a little bit different from like the sci-fi fantasy section of Waterstones, because the books, the editions, the selection is just a little bit outside of the norm. And I saw some books that I really, really liked the look of. They are all by the same author. They all match. They look so good. They have, once again, the slasher aesthetic. And I've never ever heard of the author, who is Natasha Preston. So if any of you have any experience with Natasha Preston, then let me know, because I was reading those synopses. They all sounded amazing. I'm pretty sure that she is a young adult author, which is actually fine, because while I don't read a ton of YA anymore, I do really like young adult thrillers. I think it's because when they're YA, they remind me a lot of like the teen horror movies, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and like Scream and that kind of thing. So there were a bunch of Natasha Preston books that I was interested in, but I think one of the most highly rated but also interesting to me is The Fear. So this is where there is a meme going around this fishing town where people like share what they're most scared of, and then they start to die by their worst fears. Now I know nothing about Natasha Preston, literally never seen her before. So I don't know whether her work tends to be more grounded in reality with like murderers or something a little bit weirder, folkloric, and fantastical. But let me know if you have any recommendations down below, because like I said, a lot of her stuff sounded really good. Actually, I can't remember which one it was, but one of her books sounded a lot like How Bad Things Get by Darcy Coates, with like an influencer island. Obviously that is also something, a concept that I'm particularly interested in. Tell me your thoughts. One book that I have spoken about before on my channel, I can't remember what video it was because I don't own this book obviously, but I think it might have been an anticipated release that I just like stumbled upon and been like, okay, this sounds really cool, but it's not my typical, so I don't know if I'll get my hands on it. I do know that my library has it though, so I will hopefully at some point pick it up from there. But that is The Hitchcock Hotel by Stephanie Roble. The reason why I am so drawn to this is because I am a big fan of Hitchcock movies. I know that in some ways he was a terrible man, like he tied birds to people to Tippi Hedren during the filming of The Birds, so like her fear of the birds is like somewhat realistic in that. But I spent a lot of time when I was growing up watching those movies with my mum, so they're quite nostalgic to me. And this one is about somebody who I think buys a hotel or buys like an old house and renovates it into a hotel so that every room is inspired and designed in the style of a iconic Hitchcock movie or scene. And then I think that they invite a group of their old friends or people they know to stay, and the people in there start to die one by one. It does sound like maybe a little bit gimmicky because it is like the Hitchcock of it all that drew me in. Obviously a group of people gathering in a house and dying one by one is not a super unique concept within the horror and thriller genre, and this one isn't especially, it's not especially low rated, but it's not especially high rated either, but it's one I'd like to pick up. And actually the beauty of not being experienced in a genre is that I am a lot less nitpicky about them, so they don't have to be high rated for me to enjoy them because it's not that deep for me. And I actually love that for me because that is not a privilege that I have in the fantasy genre anymore. I'm super nitpicky, whereas in like thrillers especially and some horror, vibes only baby. Get your recommendations at the ready guys, because I would like to read a book by Riley Sager. Riley Sager is a Marmite author for so many people. They either love him or they hate him, and I have not read anything by him, and he is in the same basket as like Darcy Coates to me now, where he has so many books that I literally do not know where to start. And I feel like Riley Sager is an author that I would definitely be getting out from my library or picking up like a second-hand book. So when that happens, I just kind of pick up the first book that I can get my hands on, the first one that I stumble across. But there are a couple that I've picked out for this video. One is one of Riley Sager's, I think, the most well-liked books, and one is the one that sounds the most interesting to me. I'll let you guess which one it is that you think sounds the most interesting to me. One of the most popular ones that I found was The Only One Left. This one is actually quite high rated for Riley Sager, and especially within that genre, because I do feel like it is a genre where there are a lot of like very middling average ratings, because a lot of the reaction of the reader is dependent on like the twist, and if you hate the twist then you rate it really lowly, and if you love the twist then you rate it really highly. But The Only One Left has a 4.13 average rating, which is really good. And this one is about a woman who is now in her 70s, but way back in the 1920s, she was accused of hanging her sister with a rope. I don't think that they could ever prove that she did it, but everyone assumed that it was her. She never said that it wasn't her, although she also, I'm assuming, never actually confessed to it either. And now she's in her 70s. She has had multiple strokes. She can no longer communicate. I think that she like types or taps out messages, and she has somebody who comes in to look after her, and one day she communicates to this person looking after her that it was not her that killed her sister, and that she wants to tell them everything about what actually happened. Now the one that I'm the most interested in is of course Final Girls. Once again, this is following a group of final girls, one of whom has put all of the past behind her. She doesn't remember the night where everyone was killed and like she survived, but she's kind of moved on with her life. She's happy, she's successful. But then one of the group of final girls is found dead, and one of the other ones comes into her life like a whirlwind, trying to like kind of uproot her happiness and forcing her to relive the events of the worst night of her life. This one I have not heard so many good things about. The rating on it is pretty good though. actually. And as it has a final girl topic, that's the one that I'm most drawn to. But if you have any other suggestions for Riley Sager, then please let me know. One of my anticipated releases of the year, I think it's released this month, but I haven't pre-ordered it. And I don't think it's coming in a sub box that I am regularly subscribed to or that I get as a rep package. So maybe I'll just stumble across this in the future. Maybe I'll pick myself up a copy, but that is Girl Dinner by Olivie Blake. I think that this has some sort of fantastical occult twist to it, but I actually don't know for sure. All I know is that it takes place in a sorority following somebody who is in her second year of university. So is that like that's a sophomore, right, in the US? And somebody who has graduated out of the university but is coming back as like the sorority's academic liaison. That's all I know. I've really enjoyed watching Olivie Blake's promo for the book on Instagram. I love things that have just a little bit of a cult in them in a contemporary setting, and when they're set in a sorority, I do feel like it adds something a little extra special as well. Straight back into the thrillers. Earlier this year I read The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I thought that it was entertaining, scandalous, I gasped at the plot twist, and so I'm eager to read more from Freida McFadden. Now once again, Freida McFadden is one of those authors who I think she's published 2 or 3 books this year, as I follow her publisher and I keep seeing the arcs going out, so she is writing a lot and I can't keep up, and I also don't know where to start. But I've heard that a solid place to start is with The Housemaid, which I think is like her most popular book. I think it's a series. This one is following a housemaid who works for this rich family. She thinks that the woman who lives there is really weird. She thinks that she says really weird things about her daughter and she doesn't like her very much, but she does like the man of this house who she sees becoming more and more broken every day. And I'm pretty sure that she starts to slip into the role of like the wife of this household, meaning that something has to happen to the woman who already fulfills that role, right? I'm expecting this to be as scandalous and shocking as the other book that I've read from Freida McFadden. I don't really know if this is the best place for me to go next, but because she has so many books, I actually think I have this out on Kindle Unlimited right now because all of Freida McFadden's books are available there, and I was looking at her books like trying to figure out which one I maybe wanted to pick up next, and there's so many. I just had decision paralysis and was like, I know that The Housemaid was like a massive hit when it was released, so we'll try that one, but if you have any other suggestions then feel free to let me know. That pretty much wraps us up for thriller and horror, and honestly I only have a couple of things left. An author who I do really want to try out because I haven't actually heard much about the book specifically, but I've seen a lot of people rating the books by this author 5 stars, and that is Keri Lake. Once again, I do not know where to start with her because she has quite a few books. All I know is that they're gothic romances, but because of the covers they do look like horror adjacent, so I don't know how kind of dark they go. I think the ones that I've heard the most about is like Anathema and is Nocticadia. Yeah, Nocticadia is Keri Lake as well. So I've put Anathema on this list. I didn't know which of the 2 to go with first. So Anathema is the first book in the Eating Woods duology. It is a gothic dark fantasy, and I'm honestly, for this one, I'm just going to read the synopsis because I literally don't know how to summarize it. It says, only the banished know what lies beyond the woods. There are whispers about what lurks in Witch Nell, the forest where sinners go to die. The villagers call it the Eating Woods because what's taken is never given back. Only those who've lost their senses would dare to go near it, or the banished. Mavis Bronwick knows better than to breach the misty labyrinth of trees, but a tragic turn of events compels her beyond the archway of bones to a boundary no mortal has crossed before. One that cloaks a dark and fantastical world that's as dangerous as it is alluring. It's there that he dwells, the cursed lord of Eidolon, the one tasked to keep her hidden from the magehood that seeks to crucify her in the name of an arcane prophecy. Zavander Rydane, known to his prey as the Scorpion, is the coldest, most calculated assassin in all of Etheria, and he'd sooner toss his feisty ward to a pack of vicious fire drakes than keep her safe, if only he could. Mavis' blood is the key to breaking his despised curse and vanquishing the slumbering evil in Witch Nell. Unfortunately for Lord Rydane, fate has other plans for the irresistible little enchantress, and his growing obsession with her threatens to destroy everything, including himself. So there you go. Seems very much in the same lines as a lot of fantasy romance, but the fact that I've seen so many people enjoying it and the fact that it's like gothic dark fantasy has me intrigued. A very, very popular one that I have resisted for a long time, actually 2 very popular ones we're going to cover here, but the first one is one that once again I'm not sure is for me, but I kind of want to read it just so I know what everybody else is talking about, and that is Bunny by Mona Awad. This one is a very popular, very well loved dark academia story following a group of popular girls. I think they're like, I don't don't know if they're the it girls or whether they're just a little bit weird and culty, but they all call each other Bunny, and the book is really weird, which is why I've kind of strayed away from it, because that kind of, once again, ambiguous, intangible writing style where you don't really know what is going on isn't for me. But apparently the more you get into it, kind of the clearer it becomes, and that's where the magic happens. So I want to have that experience. I just don't know if it's going to be for me because of the style of the book, but it is one that's always talked about and a lot of people read in this season. And I feel like I haven't looked into it properly because I haven't read Bunny, but I do know that there's a new book that is coming out soon or has just been released that is some sort of sequel or set in the same world or something. So I feel like a lot more people are reading it and talking about it again. Another very, very popular dark academia that I have not read that I do think I'll enjoy actually is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. ML Rio is another author who keeps coming to Leeds Waterstones, and I don't feel like I can pick up any of her books until I've read If We Were Villains, because it is obviously her most popular book and so many people love it. This one I think is told in not necessarily an interview style, but it is somebody telling a story to a detective of a murder that happened 10 years in the past. So I think this guy was accused of a murder that he may or may not have committed. He's been in prison for 10 years, and he eventually talks to a detective and tells him the story of what actually happened. And it's set in this like elite, prestigious academy following a group of 7 actors who are all studying Shakespeare. So it's like super pretentious, and along the way somebody gets killed. And the final book we're going to be talking about is one that I just don't know if it's for me. I keep seeing it around. I really like the covers. I know a lot of people really like it, but for one, it's funny. And humor can work for me, or it can really not and really put me off. I do like a lot of really dark, serious books. So if the humor's not right, then I'm just not into it. And also I'm wondering if it's like a little bit too silly goofy for me. And that is Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. So this is a humorous serial killer romance. And I'm pretty sure that it is following 2 serial killers who both kill bad people. And they kind of like try and one-up each other constantly in these murders, and as they continue to do this, I'm assuming they grow closer and fall in love. Like I said, it's the humor that's putting me off, because obviously there has to be some sort of like lightheartedness to this if they're 2 serial killers murdering people, and I don't know if I would prefer if it was actually super serious and dark and gothic. Yeah, I just don't know if it's for me. It sounds fun, it sounds interesting. I like serial killers in fiction, obviously, so I think that's what draws me to it, but I just don't know whether tonally it's something that I would enjoy. A case of like a bit of a silly goofy rom-com story that I do like is the Megan Bannon books, the Tanria series, starting with The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, where that is like a kind of light-hearted fantasy story, but that's not silly goofy, because the romance actually has a lot of like depth in the personal things that they're working through to get to the point of the romance. It's more that like the backdrop of the fantasy is not like a super serious fantasy world that gives it a little bit more levity. But I don't know, let me know if you think Butcher and Blackbird is something that I would like, because I'm just unsure. But I kind of also want to know, because maybe I would love it. So those were 18, I think, books that have caught my attention this spooky season. Please leave me recommendations for the authors where I like kind of don't really know where to go down in my comments to give me a little bit of direction. I'm not going to be picking up any of these books anytime soon. I kind of like making these videos though, because it may put some books on your radar just by me talking about them and like giving you guys the synopsis. Maybe some of these are ones that you haven't heard of and me consider picking up now, but it helps me to kind of like work through my excitement about them by talking about them and putting them out into a video, even though I have enough books that I'm not going to be picking these up sometime soon. Maybe in the future. The reason why they're on here is because I'm interested in them, but I also know that just buying books because I'm interested in them, if I'm not going to be reading them within the next month, means that they're probably just going to languish on my shelves for like 5 years, and honestly nobody needs that. So for now, they will go unread, but maybe in the future they will make their way to my own TBR. If you guys would like to let me know you were here but you don't have any recommendations for me, then please go ahead and leave me a skull emoji for the cover of If We Were Villains. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, my Instagram, and also my Patreon if you'd like to follow me on any of those. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.